Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Collegiate Athletics Advocate. My name is Will, and today I went on Jason Kelly's Let's Run podcast to talk about the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and their seasons so far, as well as what the rest of the season holds for them. I'm not going to make this intro too long. I really love doing these videos with Jason. This is our second one. This is the first one I'm posting on my channel, but I'm going to post our last one as well. I just forgot to post it the first time around. Hopefully, we get to keep doing this more as the season goes on. And without further ado, here's my discussion with Jason.
Welcome to the show today. Grateful to have you. Grateful to have on my guest. I always mess up your name, man. The Collegiate Athletics Advocate. Sometimes it's a bit of a tongue twister. But thanks for coming on the show. Grateful to talk about this really fun start to this college football season. For some programs, things are going really well. For other programs, things are a bit of a struggle right now. How you doing, man? Good to talk to you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit too. I mean, too bad I didn't focus group that name choice when I decided to make an account. But I think
it's a good name. It definitely spells out who you are, what you believe in, and what your goals are. It's just difficult to say when you're trying to record an intro to a podcast.
Yeah, no, I get that. Actually, I got a hype up from Bill, that college football guy. He said long names are pretty good, so I kept with it. But yeah, no, things are good. I mean, what a start to the 2020. It's 2025 now. Holy crap!
2025. Yep.
2025 college football season. I mean, this is like my happy time of the year. I usually am not a fall guy because everything dies and it gets cold and there's no snow, but college football's on and that makes me happy. So I'm pumped to be here. Happy to be back on. Like, always love talking college football. So it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean it's my happy time of the year too. I do notice that, during the summer my weekends are very relaxed but all I want is for college football and sports to return, and then they come back and Sunday night comes and I'm exhausted because I'm talking about these games and covering the team, and I realize that I miss those weekends without sports, even though it makes me very happy. But it's been kind of riveting, and the first thing that I wanted to jump in and talk to you about are the two Pac-12 schools, the ones currently in the Pac-12 before it comes into form this coming season. Wanted to talk first about Washington State because I like a few things that I see going on there. I know that they had that rough that rough game against the University of Idaho in their first week, but you did win. And as long as you win in college football, you have nothing to apologize for, especially us at UNLV struggling with our own school from Idaho State in our case. But I thought that second week performance against San Diego State was pretty solid. How are you feeling about that program right now? I think that they're adjusting maybe to being in kind of the group of five life that they're in now, that was forced upon them unjustly. I think they're adjusting to it pretty well, and I think they've got a good little hire. I like what they're doing, even with all the departures from last year. I have some hope for that program. What are your thoughts on Washington State right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually am a Coug fan. So this was, I mean, I thought based on the start of the season that it was going to be a little rough, but yeah, I really liked what I've seen. I actually really liked what I'd heard out of fall camp, which made week one really surprising. I really did a hard readjust on my expectations after week one. And then going into week two, I saw them clean up a ton of those week one mistakes, whether it was procedural, really, we couldn't get the run game going. I think, especially when you look at the two Pac-2 schools, the right now, I think it's really, you got the tale of two cities right now. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. But for like, it's like two sides of the same coin. Like right now, you've got Washington State struggling to play, at the level that they used to play at because they've got personnel that are jumping up a level, right? A lot of transfers, a lot of new players, a lot of them from lower levels of college football, which isn't a bad thing. I've really liked a lot of the personnel that I've seen. And then you've got Oregon State on this other coin, who's got all of this money that they've been pouring in, trying to make sure that they're still investing at a power conference level. And their coaching is really letting them down. I think from a Washington State standpoint, I really like a lot of the things that I see from the coaching specifically. I mean, I think one of the things that Jimmy Rogers said in one of his opening press conferences is he wants to win a national championship. Do I think that's going to happen to Washington State? No, but it's the fact that when you see him talk, he really genuinely believes it, and you can see like that's a guy who's on a mission who's like totally happy where he is because he's wants this challenge. And I think, I mean, from what I've seen, super genuine. You are going to get exactly what he's going to say he's going to get. Whereas like with Dickert last year was a lot of rah rah. It was a lot of hearing things that I wanted to hear and then not necessarily seeing them on game day. And I think I really I'm really loving this coaching and where it's at, and I'm really proud of the Cougs so far. This that especially after week 2, we'll see what happens in week 3 when they go down to Denton to take on North Texas. I think that should be a good challenge.
Yeah, and that's really, the American is having a good season, and obviously, not all their teams have been perfect. Army lost to a good Tarleton State team, who has been really surprising. Actually, that program seems to be really on the up and up. But I think that kind of AAC versus the rest of the group of five. I guess you can still call it the Pac West area of the country for another year, before it completely splits. Obviously, although it is already kind of split. I mean, I'm not not literally, but I really think that North Texas game is going to be kind of important for the Mountain West specifically this year, because the AAC is showing a lot of strength. I think, in ways, especially with the emergence of USF, with Memphis looking good so far. There's good program. Tulane, I think the top 2 G5 programs this season, just teams this year, are probably both in the American, in Tulane, and USF. At least that's my opinion right now. That Boise State USF loss makes things very difficult. So I'm very much looking forward to that North Texas game. And I guess the thing that I really want to ask you about is what do you think is going to end up happening at Oregon State? And you can comment on that North Texas, Washington State thing if you'd like as well, of course, because it's very interesting. But this Oregon State situation with Trent Bray, I did my college football realignment series when I covered Oregon State. Half of my video was dogging on Trent Bray, and this was before the start of the season because I saw him coach last year. I didn't think he was a good coach. And Oregon State seems to be kind of in a rough spot. And the Pac-12 going into the new Pac-12, if Oregon State is not strong, that's a problem for the new Pac-12. It's a big problem for the new Pac-12. Kind of what do you think's going on there, and how do you think it resolves ultimately?
I think I took away a couple of things these past 2 weeks watching Oregon State. I have been watching them. I've had their games on. I watched their game and then I watched the Coug game. And I think it was really cool, first off, this season to kind of get a sneak peek of what things might look like in the new Pac-12. You had Fresno State going to play Oregon State, and you had San Diego State going to play Washington State. So you have 2 future Pac-12 matchups. I thought that was pretty cool. What I thought was a little uncool was watching this Oregon State game. You can clearly see like they're losing the fans. There's and I Canzano said it today on the Puck Sports show. I don't want to steal all of his words, but I thought he said it perfect. Like you really saw him speak to just I mean it was pure, that was his pure unadulterated rage when he got to the halftime report and he speaks into the mic and he's dropping f-bombs, and like one that can't happen. That I think that's pretty unprofessional, and it stinks to see because you're really seeing the kind of the wheels come off over there at Oregon State. And I think what really sucks is that you're getting to a point now where you got to go to Lubbock and you got to play a red hot Texas Tech team with a lot of power, and then you got to go into Autzen Stadium and you got to play Oregon State. They're probably, barring something significant, miracles happen. They wrote about them in a couple of books, but I don't know that I see that happening. It looks like they're going to start this season 0-4. And how do you keep the locker room? How are you going to? I honestly, I thought your takes on Trent Bray were really good. Like, and this isn't the first time that we've seen a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator elevated to the head coach position, and they just weren't the right fit for it. This isn't, this story's been told over and over and over and again in college football, and it really is unfortunate to see. And like I said, it's the tale of two cities. Like you've got, less personnel, but great coaching over at Washington State. And you can see that team is really unified and there's a great energy over there. And then you've got this really talented, super experienced, super promising roster with tons of investment over at Oregon State. And the coaching is really just letting them down. And you can see what kind of effect that's having on them. And again, I really think it's only downhill from here until they finally get a break after that or the Oregon game. And I'm honestly, I think week 5 can't come soon enough for them. I honestly, I don't really know the how. If I'm Trent Bray, I am looking at the next 2 weeks and I am just thinking, man, where can I get the largest size earplugs possible? Because I just got to drown out the noise.
Yeah, I totally agree. And part of the problem is it's not just, I mean, obviously the Texas Tech and the Oregon games are games that are probably losses. I mean, you kind of have to chalk those up. Lubbock is a tough place to play. Autzen is a near impossible place to play. But it doesn't actually, like, if you have an 0-4 team that's lost its confidence, they play Houston after that. And Willie Fritz in that Houston program, at the beginning of last year, they were really struggling. UNLV went into Houston and on the road beat them up pretty good. But towards the end of the year, they started picking off some teams. And so, then they have Houston and then they have App State, and App State is a giant slayer type program too. And obviously if both teams were 0-0 and Oregon State still had confidence, I would pick Oregon State against App State, especially, on a neutral field. But, if they're 0-5, which is a possibility, by the way, a real possibility, there's a chance they're 0-6. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And Trent Bray, I actually don't know that would be like, I almost would prefer that for Oregon State long term, because I don't think Trent Bray's the guy. And you do not in 2026 want to go in with a lame duck head coach that nobody believes in. I think you've seen some of that in Florida with Billy Napier. I think he lacks the confidence at that program because he knows everybody wants him gone. And when you have a program that doesn't have confidence in their head coach, sometimes it's better to kind of rip the Band-Aid off. So what I would hope from Oregon State, especially heading into the new Pac-12, and I want to get your thought on this, I just want them to be decisive. I want them to say, and I want them to be decisive in the right way. I want them to fire Trent Bray. Even if he turns it around and they go 5-7 again, I want them to fire him. And I get that I don't know what the financial situation at Oregon State is. I know that they have a lot of money tied up in trying to keep that spending at a high level, as close to the power level as they can. But I think Washington State is taking a very prudent approach to the unfair relegation that was forced upon them, and some of that has led to some fan apathy at Washington State. Some of the attendance hasn't been quite as good as you'd hope, although it hasn't been completely disastrous yet or anything. But I think that Oregon State needs to take a look in the mirror and they need to say, we have to be prudent here. We're in a G5 conference. And if we're not good, there's a very good chance that the American, if we're not good, and San Diego State doesn't look like a good program to me. And, if Boise State, it can't be, even if they're a very good program, if they can't be, at what they were with Ashton Genty, there's a real chance that the American is the 5th best conference. And without Oregon State, it's going to be very difficult for the Pac-12 to compete with the American, because say what you want about the American, it's got too many teams in it. But it's got teams that spend money and it pays its teams well because of all the buyout money that they have from schools like Cincinnati and Houston leaving and SMU. So they have money behind them. And I just think Oregon State and its position and its, power, being in real danger is very dangerous for the Pac-12. Do you think I'm a little too alarmist on that?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, where I see the alarm bells are actually really in their depth chart, because I see senior, redshirt senior, redshirt junior. Like, you've got most of your guys are super experienced this year, which is great, right? It means that maybe there's a chance, especially a lot of them have been there, right? So I think that the hope is that you can recover. You at some point you stick the ice pick into the wall and you stop the slide, right? You stop the fall, right? And I still think that they can be a 7-16. I think that their peak at this point is 8-4. I The floor is below 5-7, right? Like, at this point, that's become evident. I never would have thought that was a possibility, but um, I'm never going to sit here and call for somebody's job, right? Because I don't think that that's the right way to do it. In terms of the financials, the buyouts 3.6 million at the end of the season. That's not nothing, right? For especially when it comes to, I don't want to use your verbiage because I don't necessarily agree with it, that it's a relegation to to the group of 5, group of 6 ranks. I think that it's just a different conference, right? And I also am not going to pretend that the Conference of Champions is what it once was, but I still push back against this kind of group of 5 relegation. What I do think is appropriate is making sure that you're managing expectations and you're managing I'm struggle for the words here because I think Washington State is doing it. This kind of prudency that you're talking about, they're navigating the transition as intelligently as possible, and you can tell that they're spending the money in the right places when it comes to that coaching staff. I don't like what they're doing right now, where they are starting to cut other areas of the athletics program. That's another area of conversation, but at the same time, like that's a whole different conversation, right? So I don't. It is relevant, but I think that this adjustment period has been difficult for Oregon State. I don't think that they just need to throw their hands up and say, screw it, the season's over after 3 games, right? Like if they lose in Lubbock, if it's bad, right? But at the end of the day, you can't just throw your hands up and give up. Like that's what Florida State did. And there are very few programs in the entire country that can have a 2-10 season as abysmal as they had last year and then turn the roster around and go and beat Bama. Yeah, it's just so you need to have a bounce back in some way. And as much as people in Corvallis might want him out of there, ousting Trent Bray is not going to be the solution that you think it is. Just like if you oust Billy Napier right now, who's taking Billy Napier's spot? Like you're not leaving the team in a better situation with nobody at the helm than if you had somebody at the helm. Even if it's not like Trent Bray isn't trying his best, he's clearly extremely frustrated. But I think there is some inexperience showing. Um, I wouldn't be surprised actually if he restructured his deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season, Trent Bray restructures his head coaching deal, gets some more money into staffing. He's the head coach. He's going to be the head coach, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if he brought in some more experienced personnel and he was no longer calling plays. And so I think that that's what you're going to see rather than like the total, kind of clean slate. Cause I just don't think as much as Oregon State has been flexing their muscles and showing what kind of cash they have, I just don't think that.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. That was kind of my thoughts on that. But yeah, no, I think you're right. Like the pendulum of power is ever swinging in college football. And right now, you have an Alex Golish led team that has been building for this is year 3 under Alex Golish at USF. Man, what a team that is. Like that, I mean, people at U of F can be pissed, but that USF team is the real deal. And they've got a quarterback who's the real deal. And they play with a fire and a passion. And Boise went in there and got boat raced. And I do not think Boise's season is over. They're just out of control of their destiny. And so I think that right now I think there's still going to be a power struggle between the American and the Mountain West this season. I don't know if the Mountain West still has the guns to be able to compete for that playoff spot. Cause right now, I mean, Tulane and USF are in control of their own destinies, but Tulane almost had a scare against South Alabama this past weekend. If they go and, if Duke, if they slip up against Duke and it's bad, then the perception changes. If USF gets boat raced in Coral Gables by Miami because that team also looks dangerous, the perception changes, right? And I think the difference last year with that 11-1 Boise team is that they had a good loss, a 3-point loss to Oregon, and they almost could have won that game. So again, it's a game of inches, like, and it's a game of really little things. Like you're seeing the little things, like what Oregon State gave up. I almost want to say like 2 touchdowns worth of points just because of mistakes made in special teams, and they couldn't get snaps right. Like those are basic things, right? But you have a $1.5 million quarterback who is able to bail you out until a minute left in the game when Fresno State took control, and that Matt Entz led team, I think, is really going to surprise a lot of people this year. Sorry, I know I've been rambling for a little bit.
No, you're fine.
I don't think it's all
No,
doom and gloom. I think there's potential here. I think again that their week 3 is going to be very telling, and you're going to see everyone kind of again. I want to use this term because we're in it. It's almost like the season. Like we got to settle into the season. Week 1 through like 4 is nuts, and then we get into conference play, and everyone really figures out. Oh, okay, who's actually going to win this season, right?
yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of variation early on in the season, and I think even with my team UNLV, you're seeing some crazy. I mean, we've been outgained 2 of our 3 games, but we're 3-0 with a win against the Big Ten. Because of that USF Boise game, kind of like you said. I mean, even we don't even control, even going undefeated, we don't control our own destiny because of the wins that USF has. They could lose that Miami game though, even in not great fashion, and still control their own destiny because of the 2 wins that they have in the non-conference. Like I think an 11-1 USF championship, American championship team probably does have the upper, just because they have that head-to-head against the Mountain West. And so I think last year, the stars kind of aligned because a lot of Group of 5 teams kind of messed up, kind of slipped up. You saw Tulane lose 3 straight to end the year. You saw Memphis lose a dumb game to Navy. So
yep.
we'll just have to see. It's still early. You're totally right. But in terms of your Oregon State point, there are 3 programs in this new Pac-12 that they need to fire their coaches as soon as possible, in my opinion. And I don't mean in season. Like, just postseason. I'm not saying that they should, there's nobody, but like, Jamie Rogers, he's a good coach at Washington State. Matt Entz, they got him. There are guys out there that are good coaches that can come in and do a good job. And the sooner that Colorado State, San Diego State, and Oregon State move on from their head coaches, the better. Those guys aren't going to take you there. They're not going to do it. Sean Lewis sucks. Jay Norvell sucks. And I think Trent Bray does truly suck. And so I know that's harsh. I know we disagree. And maybe
Yeah.
I'm
I
I'm
mean,
an
I
outside
don't
party. You know
totally
what I mean?
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I'm not totally shutting that down. I think, and we'll see. It really does come down to the dollars and cents in some cases, and we'll see who's in a
yeah,
position to fire their coach and who's in a position to get them to spend a little bit more of their own money on their staff, right?
totally. Yeah,
Forcibly, right? Because that happens.
yeah,
It's but like again, it's like liked what I saw from Colorado State against UW in week 1. It was just that they had to get bailed out in the refs this past weekend
yeah.
against.
They should be one. They should be 0-2. They really got blessed. But at the same time, you never apologize for winning in college sports. So I mean, what are they
Exactly.
supposed to do? Give it back?
And
Like
I don't think I didn't. It's not like I didn't like what I saw from San Diego State either. They had a disappointing performance against Washington State, but they really handed it to Stony Brook. You can see, I think there is potential here in that program. One team we haven't talked about at all, but I want to give their flowers is Texas State. Man, what a game. That has to be one of the best games that I've seen on ESPN Plus ever.
totally
When they
agree.
went
Totally
into
agree.
went into the Alamo Dome, that thing was packed. I think the official number was somewhere up in the high 40s. Like that place was rocking. The Texas State fans showed up, and that team looks awesome. I don't know if they're going to go into Tempe and win, but I think that they're going to have a great game, and really happy with GJ Kinney and how they've done that. It's their first time repeating as champions of the I-35 rivalry. This is their first time starting the season 2-0. Is this the year they finally beat the Cajuns and make it to these, win the Sun Belt West, make it to the Sun Belt Championship? This is something that I talked about in I did this whole long kind of preview video a couple weeks ago just about my expectations for the teams coming in. And, I've actually liked what I've seen from a lot of the teams. Like, obviously, like I'd like to see a little bit more from Colorado State, and San Diego State remains to be seen, because I think that was a pretty bipolar 2 weeks. And same with Colorado State. Fresno State looks to be on the up now after a disappointing first week. Boise looks to be on the up, even though that was Eastern Washington. There's a battle of colored turfs. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, the red
Um,
versus the blue.
yeah. But I think there's a lot to look forward to. Utah State looks good. Bronco Mendenhall doing well. Only getting halved by Texas A&M. So I think there are things to look up for. I'm not too worried about the Pac-12 next year because we're still in this year. And as much as I want to look, I want it to be 2026. I want to see these games being played. I want to see future rosters, but right now I'm watching football now, and I'm really happy with football now. And I will continue to throw on all of these games, and excited to see the good viewership numbers on the CW. And they're putting a nice product on television, and people are liking that. So I think all in all, I'm happy with the pack right now, and I'm looking forward to the pack next year. Things look good. But yeah, like you said, the G6 powers that or actually still G5 this year, G6 next year, if you want to call it that. But I think the pendulum of power is ever swinging, and I again, I'm really excited to see which way it eventually swings at the end of the season. I know we've talked so much about this almost ad nauseum, but again,
Yeah.
it's college football is exciting, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. And again, what an interesting start! What an interesting start, and especially, I mean, especially from the Rebels. I mean,
Yeah,
but
well, we've been a bipolar team too. We just
yeah,
got but we're 3-0. Like I said, you never apologize for being 3-0, and I don't care. I mean, I know that because UCLA lost to us, that means they're the worst team in America. That seems to be what people that's the only is the same thing last year when we beat Houston and Kansas. Everybody was like, oh well, those are just the two worst power conference teams. It's like, well, they're 0-1, and it's like, well, just because they lost to you, it's like, well, maybe we're just kind of good.
can only do
Um,
so much to control the narrative. Exactly.
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like UCLA is a pretty special case because of the Nico stuff. But we're 3-0. We're going into the bye week. I still don't see us as a CFP contender or anything. I think we're just too flawed defensively, discipline issues. But I mean, Dan Mullen's he's a good head coach, and I think we're showing that we weren't just Barry Odom at UNLV. We can keep something going, and we can be a really respectable program, which I think we are at this point. But I did want to just kind of briefly, before we close it out, mention that today the court did hear the motion to dismiss by the Mountain West Conference against the Pac-12. So the lawsuit's kind of ongoing. We talked about this a little bit previously, but there's no real news there. And I would just say, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I don't really think that the results of a motion to dismiss, because this isn't like a who wins the case or not thing. The only party that can technically win the case right now is the Mountain West. But there's just no way a judge is going to want to hear discovery. There's too many moving parts in this case. And so I don't expect the judge to grant the motion to dismiss. It's going to be later this week, maybe early next week, hopefully later this week, that we get a resolution on that. But I don't know if you had any thoughts. I mean, I just don't know that there's a ton to say. Do you agree?
No, there really isn't. And I've been reading as much as there is to read about it, right? I'm searching everywhere for more information because that's what I crave. But honestly, there isn't much to report. Right? It's a motion. It's motion to dismiss. The hearing was today. Both sides presented their arguments. The judge heard him. Wants to go off bench, go into chambers, think about him. I'm thinking we're probably going to be waiting at least a week, probably two. I mean, that's probably it's the timeline that I've heard. If it takes more than a month, I'll be a little ticked off because I want there to be some sort of progress in this. And I agree. I think everyone knew that the motion to dismiss um, being upheld. I think that would be surprising to a lot of people. There's just like you said, there's too much in this case. I think the PAC brought forward 4 different counts that they were talking about in their lawsuit. Most of them are swinging for the fences, but the main ones are the ones that we've all talked about. The antitrust, the kind of there's a lot to hear in discovery. I don't even know if we'll get to discovery. I really think that this is the new starting point for mediation. I think we're going to go back to mediation as much as the two sides don't really want to be in a room together. And again, I used to think that this was just kind of projected onto them. It appears that that's actually not the case, and the rooms have been a little hostile. So, which is surprising because Gloria and Teresa used to work together. So it's kind of, again, we're in this world. We all we can do is read the news. But I think we go back to mediation. I think we reach some sort of agreement because I honestly don't think that either side wants to go into discovery at all. I don't think that they want to get to that point. So we'll see. I've been wrong before, and my sister's the legal type, not me. So we'll see.
Well, as somebody who does discovery kind of all day, every day at, at the law office at the law firm that I work at. Hopefully I pass the bar. We're still a couple more weeks away from results. So fingers crossed. Discovery sucks. It's arduous. It takes forever. It's expensive. When you enter discovery world, the lawyers go from, if you think we're paying lawyers now, enter discovery world, it gets even worse. Then the lawyers think of 10 more motions they want to write. Then there's doing interrogatories. They're doing requests for production, which take forever. They're doing depositions of a million people. It's very arduous, and so hopefully they come to a resolution. But I really do think, like you said, and like I've been saying, I didn't think it was quite that. I agree with you. I didn't think it was quite this bad up until a couple months ago, up until they actually went into mediation. These parties really don't like each other, man. And it's not just the top. It's not just the schools that don't like each other. Excuse me. It's not just the schools that don't like each other. It's also the top of the conferences. So I'm shocked by how bloodthirsty this is. But hopefully we get resolution on this because, like we were saying, and I guess we'll get to this maybe the next time we talk, because I hope that that's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Because both of these both of these conferences, the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, are both kind of too small. Eight members for the Pac-12 is really not. That's really not good enough. You need 8 or 9. You need 9 or 10 at least. And the Mountain
Yeah.
West at 9 is like the bare. I feel like 9 is the bare minimum. And until all of this is resolved, and really there's so much uncertainty with all that, I feel like everybody's just going to be stuck in limbo. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. And again, we ran a little too long, which was to be expected on the football talk because it's just too exciting. But
Well, it's more fun to talk about the field than it is about court, right?
God, it's exactly like I want I want Maction back. I need something on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get me through the week. Like I just want football all the time. It's kind of annoying to still be caught up in these off the field issues. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The Pac is too small and the Mountain West is too small. And we wanted to talk about that today, but we'll save that one for another episode. And I actually put out an episode recently on Mountain West expansion. You guys can check that out on my
Yeah,
page.
I'll link it in the description. It's a
Yeah,
really great video. He went through all the Mountain West expansion targets. I thought he did a great job. So maybe
appreciate
before we watch our next one together, whoever's if you're watching this right now, definitely check that out as homework because we'll do another episode really soon and we'll talk about the specific schools.
Yeah, and I talked. I mean, all of my first few videos, the ones that actually got me my start, were all Pac-12 expansion videos. So you guys can check those out too. Jason, I'm sure you'll link my page, and I'll be posting this on my page as well. So if you see this on my end, great. If you see it on Jason's end, great. But yeah, I always love getting to talk to you, Jason. It's a lot of fun, and loved seeing your podcast continue to grow, man. It's awesome to see the subscriber count keep going up. It's like every time it's like another 100 subscribers. So
Yeah, the Let's Run. It's running up, man. We're running. So, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited for our next conversation, which will be very soon, guys, because when he and I get together, man, it's just a blast. So, guys, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much.
I hope you guys all enjoyed this discussion that I had with Jason. Like I said at the beginning of the video, he and I are going to try to do this more throughout the season, and as time goes on, we'll be definitely following the Pac court cases and finding new ways to talk about the sport that we both love. So appreciate you guys all tuning in, and especially if you watched all the way through. Be sure to go find Jason's page. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He makes a lot of great content and he posts a lot more frequently than I do. But whether this is your first time watching me or this is your sixth time watching me, please subscribe. If you haven't already, leave a comment. Let me know what you want me to make videos on. I'm always open to input. But regardless, I appreciate you watching, and if you comment, I appreciate you commenting. If you like, I appreciate you liking. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and be well.